Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's going to be a real hot day in Sacramento. But anyway, so I'm dressed as cool as I can. What we've got here, you're looking right in the face of a reproduction of a scarab beetle that is the lid of a box here. I got the rest of the box on the table because I've got treats in it. I've got goodies in it. I got magic goodies in it. Uh, some of it I can show you, and some of it I can't because that's how magicians are. But you'll notice that there is a sigil on there, or a signature of a spirit, and that the sigil there, that symbol that I've drawn and redrawn over the years on there, is the symbol of the 55th spirit of the Goetia or Goetia. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. If you pronounce it the way I do, because I do, but I have no idea. Goetia is probably right, but I've said Goetia for years and got other people saying it, so Goetia. It's Oribos. Okay, it's a spirit that I've had much. I've done work with Oribos over the years. You can read about some of my adventures with this little friend, and I call him a little friend. Over the years, and it just looks so much like a scarab beetle that I thought, hey, I'm going to put a lot of my magic goodies in a scarab box that looks like that. Anyway, the reason I'm doing that is, and the reason I've got it out at the moment, is that I wanted to talk a little bit about Goetic Evocation. And I've talked about it before, but I was, for yesterday, I was doing something of a practical nature along the lines of Goetic, at least some Goetic study, and the fact that in the world of magic, cause can sometimes precede effect, or effect can sometimes precede cause. Time doesn't exist on a magical plane in the same way it does. We illusionarily think it is here. But anyway, I was thinking that like in Goetia and the 72 spirits of the Goetia, and there's nothing particularly sacrosanct about the Lesser Key of Solomon 72 spirits as being the only 72 spirits in the universe. Actually, they are spiritual characters that over the years have gotten themselves lumped together with 71 other spirits, sort of along the lines of the periods of 5 degrees of the zodiac, and there's just all sorts of scholarly and historic information about that, and you can just go absolutely bonkers. But ultimately, they started as one magician's idea of a particular spiritual force. They gave it a name. That name has evolved over the years. And what was informing the person that was creating this thing is their entire mythological education themselves. That's why many of the spirits are degenerated or corrupted versions of pagan gods and goddesses that they've the individual magician has relegated to the rubbish heap of the gods of one age become the devils of the age to follow. So we can't ascribe a great deal of objective reality to these things. But what they have done for us is to bring down through the ages a workable, magical system that, for convenience sake, if nothing else, is populated by this menagerie of spirits with traditional duties and powers and all of that. And within the context of that workable system, modern magicians, superstitious or not, religious or not, spiritual or not, can actually utilize the system to a certain degree of success. But like everything else in life, nothing is truly successful unless you yourself are wise enough to be operating in your own best interests. And it really holds in magic. And that level of wisdom, that level of awakening, Florida, that level of awakening allows you to see clearly what is and is not in your own best interest, and gives you at least the potentiality of exercising your will upon the universe in order to achieve that which is in your own best interest. Are you following me there? Maybe I'm not saying that well. But anyway, sitting in the car today, waiting for Constance to get out of Trader Joe's, I got out I brought along what I consider my desert island book. If I had just one, now look at this. This is, it says the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic on it, and this is the first edition. I don't know when it came out, but look, it's all beat up. And I've got it taped together here after a few years. 1995. Okay, it's an old book. Not only that, but because the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic incorporates all of the elements that are organized along the same Kabbalistic lines as the Tarot, Yod He Vav He, 4 suits, 4 elements, zodiac signs, planetary spheres, astrological quadrants, because all of that is interconnected. Everything that is organized on a Kabbalistic basis finds a little home on each of the tarot cards. And so there's all sorts of magic goodies that go along with each of those things, including Goetia, Angels of the Shemhamferish, astrological stuff, planetary assignment to zodiac signs. Let's see. Now this is Water of Water because the Queen of Cups. So there's the Enochian subangle of water off the water tablet. There's Enochian angels and things like that. So we got all of this stuff together on these cards. Of course, I'm plugging the cards all the time. They're not the most beautiful cards, but they're pretty damn correct, and they're helpful when you're studying this shit. But I had the book out because the appendix of this book is a handbook for Goetia. And with all the Goetic spirits and all of their stuff, see every one of those cards, there's 3 of cups, and there's the Goetic spirits that go with it, okay, and all of that. There's kind of the Enochian stuff if you wanted to do crossover stuff. And in the back of the book, the appendices is what makes this the Desert Island book. It's the handbook of the Lesser Key of Solomon. It's all the Enochian calls, okay, and I mean, over the years, I've just got tons and tons and tons of stuff that if I only had this book with me on a desert island, I could say, okay, how would I open up a temple? How would I I don't have my Enochian equipment with me. Yeah, you do. All your Enochian equipment, more or less, for the elemental workings, is in this this book, and including in chapter 4 is Goetic Evocation. It's my little essay, and I've already farted away 15 minutes of our program just talking about it, but I'm going to at least start it and probably continue tomorrow with this. Goetic Evocation. The trappings of Goetic Evocation resemble a Christopher Lee Gothic horror film. The magician stands inside a magic circle, protected by the names of God, archangels, angels, and other Kabbalistic words of power. Okay, well, I'm going to start by digressing right away and say, okay, there it is. That's the circle. That's the classic circle and triangle. By a combination of powerful yet eloquent exorcisms and terrifyingly incomprehensible barbarous words of evocation, the magician calls forth a demon from the pits of hell and traps it in a magic circle. There it reluctantly waits to hear its master's instructions. Then, as is usually the case in horror films, the magician, because of some tragic character flaw or unresolved issues stemming from his childhood in a dysfunctional family, loses his grip on the demon and is plunged to hell after being killed in a most unspeakably grotesque yet poetically fitting manner. While it's true that Goetic evocations are sometimes accompanied by strange, sometimes unexplainable phenomena, in nearly 20 years of practice, and I can just add another 30 years to that, I've yet to encounter anything resembling the above colorful scenario. I do recognize, to the filmmaker's credit, the basic elements of this form of magic. Yes, the magician stands inside a magical circle, upon which are divine names. Yes, the spirit is called forth by conjurations and strange words, and is trapped in the triangle. Yes, the spirit is of an infernal variety, at least in the mind of the magician. And the spirit can be very dangerous if not carefully controlled. The obvious question becomes at this point, why on earth would anyone in their right mind involve themselves in such an enterprise? For those who have not been irreparably damaged by simplistic and paranoid religious programming, The answer lies in the understanding of the term infernal spirit. How many of us can truthfully say that we've never allowed greed or jealousy or insecurity or lust or laziness or to ruin a potential triumph? How many times have you said to yourself, I am my own worst enemy? How could these bad habits and character flaws be viewed as nasty little imps who pop up at the worst possible times and torpedo even the best laid plans? Would we just love to master them and force them to work for our benefit instead of our undoing? Certainly, from one perspective, hell is our own psyche. And the infernal spirits can be considered portions of the unconscious mind or aspects of our emotional life. Up until the moment of evocation, these demons remain uncontrolled, undirected. The various spirits of classical magical literature are convenient, some say uncannily accurate, personifications of these various potential powers. What makes them dangerous is the fact that unless they're called forth and forced to labor in harmony with the magician's will, they'll continue to run amok and just work their mischief. The 72 spirits of the Goetia are drawn from one of the best-known grimoires of all time, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Book of the Lemegeton. And then I give the Sloan manuscript. Now, I'm going to digress for a second, because in 1976, I got this in the mail. Okay, this is a 96 first edition. Let's see here if I can even find that. First facsimile edition. Okay, February 1976, just a few months after my Minerval initiation. I didn't buy this book first anyway, but I've paid for it. Okay, it is, and I've still got the dust jacket. This is published with the money funded by the musical artist Jimmy Page, and was procured by Helen Parsons Smith, who sent it to me and said I could pay her for whenever I wanted to. Helen Parsons Smith of the OTO. Okay, Jack Parsons' widow, Wilfred Smith's. That's the only Goetia I had to work on for a long, long time. And even though Helen Smith sent it to me, and Helen's position in the OTO was stellar, it was not really advised for me to work Goetian magic as a probationer and as a Minerval still at the time. But it was appointed for my study, and that's when I started reading it. Okay. 72 spirits of the Goetia are drawn from one of the best-known grimoires of all time, Lesser Key of Solomon, the Book of the Lemegeton. Fifth book, I think, or first book. Several of the spirits appear to be degenerated versions of gods of the ancients. Baal, Ashtaroth, or Astarte, while others appear to be genii of the Alf Layla, La Walayla, or 1001 Arabian Nights. Those who in the past translated, copied, and recopied the various texts of the Lemegeton were obviously not sympathetic to the pagan theology represented by the spirits. And so we can never be sure what the original attributes of the spirits actually were. The mere fact that they have come down to us as fallen angels of the classic Miltonian ilk is suspect in itself. Even more striking is the sex-negative attitude displayed by the fact that all the spirits are male, including the Dukes Ashtaroth. Used to be the goddess Astarte. I mean, she's the hottest thing in heaven. And Grimoire, who appears to be a beautiful woman, and Vepar, who is a mermaid. Now, in those days, back in 1970-something, this glorious thing had not even been published yet. Okay? And if we really want to know the background of the 72 spirits of the Goetia and lots of other things too, now the scholarship level is at the highest level ever. Okay, with works like this that have come out just in the last 2 years. But I digress. Okay. Where are we? Sex negative, Dukes, okay. There are those whose opinions I respect very much, who maintain that the spirits of the Goetia have an objective existence and can and do operate independently of the magician's will. Now, I'm not disagreeing with them. Okay, this is a high magical art form. And even for funky people like me, lazy, poorly educated magicians like me, for the duration of a Goetic ceremony, it's necessary to buy into the objective reality of the spirit. That's what makes it work. You buy in, at least temporarily. You buy into the objective reality of what you're dealing with. You're moving from Asiya into Yetzirah, okay? And you're being ruled by your Neshama. Your Neshama. You got to have all of those things talking together in a Goetic evocation to make it all work. My attitude, though, is it's unhealthy to buy too deeply into the objective reality of it after the technical triggering mechanism of the ceremony itself has completed. There are others that aver that they are entirely subjective and have no existence outside the magician's mind. And my thing is, there is no outside of the magician's mind. As I subscribe to Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford that says, it's all in your head, you just have no idea how big your head is. There is no outside of your head. Aleister Crowley went so far in his introduction to Goetia to say that the spirits are portions of the human brain which, properly isolated and disciplined, can be of great aid to the magician. Human brain. Okay, Crowley even said it's your brain, the meat brain. But elsewhere in his writings, it appears he takes an entirely different attitude. With most things, you can find it most anything you want from him. Whatever the true nature of the spirits may be, it's obvious to anyone who has been bold or reckless enough to perform a Goetic evocation that things happen. It seems obvious that part of what makes the magic of evocation work is the magician's acceptance at least temporarily, that the spirit's existence is objective. Goetic magicians fall into two broad categories: those who strive as humanly possible to replicate what they believe to be the original modus operandi, and those who don't. Because the original modus operandi is a great art form. It's a ballet. It's an opera. You wouldn't dream with tinkering too much with the elements of a great opera. You would, or you wouldn't want to paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. It's a spiritual, active, proactive art form, and I can understand why a magician would say, well, part of my magic is being a great actor, to play this great instrument of magic. I'm too lazy for that, though, I have to admit. Neither, in my opinion, is necessarily superior to the other. It all depends on the individual magician. If your religious convictions or sense of art is such that you feel that the evocation is doomed to failure if you do not have every word of every conjuration, constraint, or curse duly memorized exactly as it appears in the 1687 Sloan manuscript, if you believe that you'll be blasted, torn apart, and have your soul eaten by a hideous halitosis snorting monster, if one Hebrew word of your magical circle is misspelled, then it's absolutely essential that you take the time to meticulously do all these things correctly. If, on the other hand, you feel confident that there's a simple formula of attitude and action that's the key to the successful evocation, and as long as the basic elements of the formula are mastered, the operation will be a success. Then it would be a waste of time for you to memorize conjurations that are meaningless to you, or guard your circle with names of gods you do not worship. It's probably clear to the reader that I fall into the latter category. Space permits me to adequately elucidate much further upon either traditional or heretical Goetia. The best I can do is offer a brief outline of the system and refer you to two texts. Now remember, I'm writing this well over 30 years ago. And at the time, these are the two texts that I thought would be helpful for you to have. And this is one of them, the classic texts, the classic, it's a single Lemegeton, Lesser Key of Solomon, and at least the major section of a book that I compiled with Christopher Hyatt and was illustrated by the great David P. Wilson, or otherwise known as S. Jason Black. And it's Aleister Crowley's Illustrated Goetia. Now, that might seem like a little lightweight and cheesy, but it's got cool stuff in it. But what it really does have is all of the major classic conjurations, everything right out of this, only kind of introduced with Lonisms. Okay. Where am I here? Let's see. Hang on. Okay, let's see. Here we go. The The former is a faithful reproduction of the first book of the Lemegeton. That's the Jimmy Page one. But it's out in paperback now all over the place. The OTO has a fabulous, was responsible for an edition from Weiser, just in paperback. Get that one. Which was transcribed by S.L. McGregor Mathers and introduced by Alistair Crowley. The text contains all the various conjurations and constraints, plus seals and attributes of the spirits, and many details relevant to classic evocation. Anyone who seriously wants to embark upon Goetic evocation must be profoundly familiar with this text. The latter is an attempt by Dr. Hyatt and myself to point out the psychological treasures of Goetic evocation and give examples of modern innovations of the system. We've included all the selected classical conjurations and, of course, seals and attributes of the spirits. This text also contains the 72 illustrations by artist and Goetic magician David P. Wilson. Even if I were not co-author of this text, I'd recommend it to any student of Goetia. Okay. Yes, I frittered away my time with all these digressions and stuff. I'm going to pick this up tomorrow. Again, I'm reading from Appendix 4 of Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. We're going to pick up with elements of Goetic evocation. I'm going to keep these books out, but I'm also going to show you a bit of what is actually in that box and show you how absolutely sloppy and funky DuQuette's way of doing magic really is. And I don't know if those of you out here can recognize certain things on this box and why this box that used to be a happy-go-lucky Christmas morning box seems to be all charred and burned. Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. I got to go out back and try to put together an exercise bicycle. Constance made me to get an exercise bike. But only if I can put it together. We'll see you tomorrow. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.